Hi there. So this is the fourth part in a four-part series about a moon cycle ritual that I started sharing at the beginning of this new moon cycle, which has gone through full moon and we're getting close to new moon again. So I'm talking about the last couple of cards in this particular investigation that we're in the midst of, which this moon cycle is around the theme of Venus reimagined, because Venus is retrograde right now. There's a lot going on around Venus and relationship and all sorts of things in the space. And so that's my theme for the month. And so with respect to that theme, what I've been looking at is this Kantoji Oracle. I look at this particular spread, and we're going to be looking at the last quarter moon and the sun card today. So the last quarter card indicates what motivates the waning and completing process of your cycle. And the card that came up for that particular card is this one, the Moss Cauldron. And for this one, I'm going to read the little story at the beginning. So as you walk through the woods, you come upon a great old tree with roots that have created a deep bowl in which moss has grown. You are transfixed by the play of light on the minuscule pearls of dew that adorn the rich green moss. You carefully extricate the moss from the tree roots so it maintains its bowl shape, and then walk on, cradling your green prize. When night falls, you build a fire. Remembering the play of light on the glistening moss, you carefully turn the bowl inside out so the moss, still somehow covered in dew, can catch the flicker of the flames. Further entranced, you find yourself filling the moss bowl with water from a stream, carrying it back to the fire, and crafting a way to hang the moss bowl over the flames. As the water heats, you find yourself gathering an iridescent feather, a smooth stone, a bit of fur snagged on a burr, pollen from a blossom, a woody thorn, and a tendril from a viridescent vine. You carefully drop each forest finding into the steaming, moist green cauldron. You are brewing an elixir. So I really liked this one for its meaning around what motivates the waning and completing process. So balancing opposites, I thought that was very fitting considering really a lot of the inquiry that I've been in around Venus reimagined, the balance of masculine and feminine, what that could look like done in a healthy way. And so this one being around balancing of opposites, water, fire, is really fitting, I believe, for kind of a closing cycle here. So we have the mingling of elements that can create both balance and an elixir. The balance being fire warming and bringing light, moss cooling and suggesting shade, fire moving though it's not alive, moss appears still though it lives. Together they create steam and steady shifting movement. And then the elixir, the fire activates and illuminates the potential of the moss. The moss gives the fire direction. So both of those feel like, they're just really relevant to this kind of consideration of balancing opposites, bringing them together in ways that actually create new, create something different than maybe the parts. And that feels very, very relevant for the contemplation that I'm in the midst of right now. And so in some ways, this card also deals directly with the elements of fire and water, considering that, again, that need for balance between the two and getting the alchemy right between those two. So this has a really lovely suggestion for really considering how you look to those questions of balance and what resource you have available, and bringing into consideration all of those elements as you look at, what is it that you might be able to carry forward or move forward from this. So using this as an image to help you recognize your inherent abilities and strengths and how to put those into service of your truest dreams, and to blend opposing forces in creative ways. So looking at alchemy of polarities. Really good questions to consider. And then the Sun card indicates a luminosity that exists beyond this cycle and has the potential to evolve it. While the Earth card indicates what is, and the Moon cards indicate how those things change, the Sun card indicates what could be. A cycle is a revolution that repeats. Let this archetype illuminate that which causes evolution and growth in your situation. So the card that came up for the Sun is this, the Self-Tending Fire card. So that is, I thought it was super interesting that the last few here are fiery cards related to fire. So some themes carrying through. The fire that illuminates but does not burn. So be both the source and the recipient of your own energy. Direct your life force and attention inward instead of outward. So this card is really all about that question of knowing thyself and how does one go about creating impact in the world. And interestingly, often the answer is, rather than directing your energy outward, it's directing your energy inward that creates an inward change that ultimately results in an outside change. So the self-tending fire is a part of us that is pure luminosity. It needs nothing beyond who and what we are in order to sustain or improve it. No fuel, which they are using objects of desire, no air, outer stimulus. So again, the self-tending fire generates itself as pure, non-conditional contentment, the state of calm, quiet joy that illuminates our path and radiates out from us so that we become a beacon of light and a source of warmth that others are inspired by and drawn to. So really the recommendation, the thought, the suggestion there as that Sun card, or the thing that could be, is to consider where attention goes, energy flows. So turn your attention inward and let that fire inside be what you're paying attention to. Using this card to inspire you to become quietly luminous, not for an audience, but for the sake of simply being lit and directing energy inward and illuminating inner world. So I think that's really interesting that I'm at the end of this moon cycle ritual, recording videos, coming up with, what are my thoughts about this topic or about how this is showing up for me. And the end sort of piece of consideration is to turn inward. So I thought that was a really interesting way to end this particular cycle. And as I mentioned kind of at the beginning of doing these videos, for me, this is more of a contemplation and an unfolding and an opening than it is like, oh, there's going to be some answer that comes out of this. And that said, I can usually look back at the end of the cycle or sometime after that and be really fascinated by how that topic has shown up in the course of that month. So for me, the question of Venus Reimagined is still unfolding. And I think what I'm taking from at least these last couple of cards is just that really lovely reminder of balance, balance of inward and outward, and ultimately that it all begins with turning into ourselves and knowing what's there in a deep way, which is quite a practice, and it's a practice of a lifetime. So I'll share more thoughts about Venus Reimagined as this month comes to a close, as well as other topics as they become relevant, I guess. So, yeah, so if you made it through all of this and you've watched these videos, that's great, and I hope that you're taking something from this in your own practice. And it was enjoyable for me to share something about how I view these practices, how I work with cards. So I may keep sharing. We'll see. Not quite sure yet what else I will do with some of these recordings, but this has been just a nice piece to share with you all. So thanks for watching.